And I'm also curious, show of hands, who in here has played the drinking game where you listen to a Deepak audio program and you take a drink every time he says consciousness? Who's played that? Nobody. Wow. You guys are behind the times. I'm told that Ireland, you guys are always drinking. And I find stereotypes are always true. But I will say, I'm not much of a drinker. I've never played the game. Last week I had a friend come over to my place. He wanted to play. He says, JP, do you want to play the Deepak drinking game? And I said, no, I'm not really into drinking, but you go ahead. So I put on a 60-minute long Deepak audio program I've been needing to listen to. He starts playing and he dropped dead of alcohol poisoning. It's actually very dramatic. I'm a little offended by the laughter. It actually hurts my heart. But nonetheless, after the paramedics came and took his body away, I listened to the rest of the 55 minutes of the audio program, which was awesome. Lastly, I want to say, because I'm in Costa Rica, I'm blitzed out of my mind on ayahuasca. And I'm wondering, again, show of hands, who in there is on ayahuasca with me? Cool. So based on my hallucinations, I saw everybody raise your hands. That's wonderful. I also saw the serpents raise your hands too. That's beautiful. And personally, I'm a big fan of plant medicine. I find with plant medicine, it helps me seek sobriety for my sober mind through responsible, reckless use. And plant medicine gives me permanent enlightenment as long as I keep habitually using it. And without a doubt, there is a very high correlation between the medicinal value of a plant and how high the plant gets you. That's why I like ayahuasca. It blitzes you out of your mind so you know it's highly medicinal. In fact, it's not just medicinal, it's a sacrament. Which means it's sacred, which means you can't question why I use it. But the last thing, I'm just intuitively reading the crowd, and the last thing that I feel as though you guys need to hear from me right now is me to talk about myself a little bit. So I'll do that. I feel it would just be in everybody's best interest. So on a non-plant-based sacrament note, I've been reading a lot of Ram Dass lately. Who likes to read Ram Dass? That's right, a lot of vision borders in there, so you guys can't read. But anyway, Ram Dass, he's a guru. You guys might have heard of him. But I find the more I read his work, the easier it is for me to think that my habitual use of LSD is for my spiritual development. And I feel like that's beneficial to me. Paul, is everybody levitating there yet?
Yeah, they're levitating right now. JP, are you finished your address? I know you love talking about yourself.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I won't really be finished for a few more lifetimes, but I'd be open to taking a temporary interruption.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, can you tell these lovely people what you do daily? What your daily practice is? How often do you meditate? What's your nutrition? What do you do to stay so ultra spiritual?
Yeah, in the morning I love to crush a meditation. I like to do a 5-hour meditation in the mornings. It usually only takes me 2 minutes because I'm good. And while I'm meditating, I love to do a superfood colonic because I feel like it opens me up. And then I like to take a lot of powders in the morning. And I don't really care what the powders are. I just find that anything in the form of a powder is very nutritional and superfood-like. In fact, for the most part, I've stopped eating food. And I'm just now beginning to supplement my supplements with a little bit of food. I feel like I need some back in my diet. Vegan, of course. Hardcore vegan.
You're so hardcore vegan. I mean, it's amazing. These people here, they're kind of looking. If they were looking to follow somebody, would you be open to have them as followers?
Yeah, I find the best, I would.
Yeah. And just to ask you, what benefits could you offer these people if they followed you?
For sure. I find putting people in the disempowering position of being a follower really actually puts them in an empowering position of learning to be a leader. So, if you follow me specifically, if you learn to think that what I want you to think is what you should think, you'll be well on your way to living a life of freedom and fulfilling your life purpose based on how I tell you should. And I also find it's very beneficial for people to invest in their spiritual education. That's why I charge my followers a yearly fee of $99,997. And that's for the baseline membership. When you go deeper down my funnel, you become a good candidate to become placed in my more advanced programs that also have a higher investment value. Because I care. I mean, really.
It sounds nice going deeper down your funnel, because I've heard you say before that you are very open to sleeping with your followers.
Well, I may or may not have said that based on this document in front of me from my lawyer. He says for me to say I don't recall ever saying such a thing. So that's kind of like metaphoric, if you want.
I wanted to ask you about enlightenment. Can you describe enlightenment as you understand it?
Yeah, it's intense denial of all that makes you human, and it's also even stronger denial that you're in denial. So I find that enlightenment is the pure absence of the human emotions that you actually have, and you get to replace those emotions with more spiritual emotions, like bliss, euphoria, ecstasy, nirvana, samadhi. And I think these are really the only emotions that we as spiritualists should feel. We should always be happy. And it also turns out that manic people with personality disorders are always happy, but that's different.
I'm sure you're aware that we're going through quite a shift at the moment, and you're one of the leading teachers taking us through this shift. How would you describe what's happening? I've heard it described as an awakening. How would you describe awakening for humanity?
Well, even better than an awakening for humanity is your individual awakening. And even better than your individual awakening is helping awaken other people to the fact that you're awakening. So I find to get best results from your awakening, you need a good awakening story. You need to find a place of adversity that you've lived through in your life. And if you haven't lived through adversity, you need to just make up some adversity that you've lived through. And then how you overcome that becomes the focal point, your fulcrum, if you will, that's perpetuated you into a place of awakening. So, long story short, awakening has a lot to do with telling other people how you're awake.
You have had many mystical and wonderful spiritual experiences, I'm sure. Have you managed to visit other dimensions and other planes of existence? And what message have you brought back from those other dimensions for us?
Yeah, first off, Paul, I appreciate the dimension that you're in. I can't even see your physical body. You're in such a high vibrational state, I can only hear your voice. So I would just say kudos to you for vibrating at the frequency that you're at.
Thank you, JP. It's very hard for me to be here with these people today. Is it hard for you?
These people.
Is it hard for you to be here?
Well, I'm actually not there, Paul. So, by the way, given that everybody laughed at that, I have to question the sophisticated qualities of your sense of humor. This highly questioned. Back to me, Paul.
Back to you.
I'd like for you to hear about me. So some of my mystical experiences, what matters most to me is channeling. I have a very intimate relationship with my archangel. His name is Jamal. So essentially, anytime I'm speaking, it's not my opinion. It's not a subjective perspective. It's just pure, absolute truth because I'm channeling it from Jamal. And the principal thing that my archangel channels in for me to tell people is to tell people that I'm channeling. I find that's very important for Jamal. Otherwise, people think like I'm just another person with an opinion or an idea. It's really quite mystical. I do like to do a lot of bilocating. Bilocating pranks it's a little bit of a hobby of mine.
JP, there are many spiritual teachers in the world right now. Which lineage do you most ascribe to yourself? Who do you admire as a teacher? Or who do you, who would you give advice to as a teacher, I should say?
Well, the first one I admire is Deepak Chopra for two reasons. One, his accent. Whoa, my hat's off to him. That is a very spiritual sounding accent. Number two, I think Deepak Chopra's business model is very inspirational with not the money that it brings in, but the abundance that it brings in. And then I think the spiritual teacher who needs my advice would be Eckhart Tolle. And what I would tell Eckhart is he needs to kill more animals with his bare hands. Because the guy's a little subdued. I feel like he could use more passion in his life. Like going and tackling a wild boar would be wonderful. And I personally, there's a little bias I have towards this because as a vegan, I love hunting. But I don't do anything unethical like eating the meat or anything. I love to kill animals. And that has a lot to do with the fact that I think it's not only wrong to eat animals, I think it's wrong to be an animal. So I'm very passionate about helping balance the world, and I think Eckhart Tolle could use to get his hands on some wild animals in a rather savage way. Obviously, this is probably the answer you expected, so
I'm sure he appreciate the advice from you. But people here we just want to switch subjects and talk about relationships, because I know you probably have some really good guidelines for people who are in romantic relationships. What do you consider to be a great spiritual relationship? Have you met a woman who can match your vibration?
Really anything polyamorous is a good relationship, and that would have a lot to do with me being very polyamorous, but the woman not so much, because I find it's just wrong for the woman to have other boyfriends. But I find for myself I have so much unconditional love that I just need to share it with many, many people, primarily through first and second chakra friction. And I also find that each time I'm in yoga class, when we go into a downward dog, and I look up at the woman in front of me, and I see her greeting me with her lycra encased genital silhouette, I just have an instant knowing that we've had a past life together. And it's true. Something that just fascinates me about life is how when I'm sexually attracted to a woman, there is a 100% correlation to us having had a past life together. And there's no question that past life needs present life exploration for first and second chakra friction. Because why let the past die in the past? And on the other hand, I also find there's a very high correlation that if I'm not sexually attracted to a woman, we have not had a past life together. And there's no way that I want present life experiences with her either, because our present life is the past life of our future selves, and I respect my future self too much to do that to him. So somehow, Paul, I just answered your question.
That's such a beautiful answer. It's so highly evolved, I can't begin to respond I want to go and get this beautiful audience involved and get them talking to you directly. Are you okay to talk to such low vibrational people?
Yeah, are we on an audio feed with the audience?
Yeah, I can bring the microphone over. So
okay, I thought I was just talking to you the whole time.
Oh, well, no, I have this guy here, Graham, right beside me, and he has a question for you. Graham.
Okay, well, I feel betrayed that everybody's been eavesdropping on our conversation, but with that said, we'll roll with it.
Hi, JP, good to see you, and it's great to see you in Ireland.
Well, thank you, my friend.
I'm humbled to be talking to you because you're one of the top 10 most spiritual people in the world, according to Time magazine I just read last week. But I was just wondering, you're such a beautiful, generous and kind man, and I love your hair. And I was just wondering, have you thought about bringing more spirituality into business? For instance, I was thinking maybe you could reverse sublimate from your crown chakra to your Muladhara and then float on the stock market and maybe have a horizontal merger with Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. Have you considered having a horizontal merger with Mark Zuckerberg or entering the business world, bring more spirituality and light into the spiritual business world?
I can really pick him, can't I, JP? That was a good one.
Say that one more time, Paul.
I said I can really pick them. Graham is one of our most advanced pupils.
Yeah, and he has a beautiful Hindu accent. I really appreciate that. Well, to answer your question, it's a good one, but a horizontal merger would imply that I subscribe to time, space, and motion. But I think, as we all know, if you study non-duality, that time, space, and motion are just all illusions. So the idea of a horizontal merger, horizontal, that's implying space and motion. And merger, that's implying that I bought into the duality, that there's separate entities in the first place. So from my perspective, all is one. So how could we do a business? How could we have a merger if we're already merged together in a blissful state of oneness? So with that said, if you buy into oneness, which you should, it means you can steal from people and not feel guilty because they're just an extension of you. You were already one, so you're just taking what was already yours. So that's good business advice. That defense will also stand up in a court of law as well.
JP, I have a beautiful lady here who wants to ask you a question. Her name is Neve. Are you ready?
Neve. Let me take a quick moment of 45 minutes of silence to get ready for this.
JP?
Neve, I feel like you're interrupting my stillness right now. Would you mind just being patient? Okay, so here's a teaching Jamal wants everybody to know. Excessive talking is usually the sign of pent-up sexual energy. So what's your question, Eve?
Recently I was told I'm an angel whisperer. So I reckon that means I'm very, very spiritual. And obviously not as spiritual as you, but can you whisper to angels as well?
You know, I don't like to stoop to their level most of the time. I like to have more sophisticated conversations, but it's like sometimes like I'll talk to kids about whatever, poop and pee and whatever they're doing. So yeah, I mean, I'll go there once in a while with angels, but I just don't find these conversations very stimulating. You're welcome. I think you've just had a breakthrough, Eve. I think you should really celebrate this.
Can I have a show of hands? Anybody wants to ask JP a question? I got a lady here. Okay, brilliant. Okay.
Hi JP, this is just a very simple question.
Was that the question? Because that was more of a statement.
That was a statement. I was wondering, with your colouring, which, you know, your red hair, you have this, are you Do you have Celtic blood in you? Because you look it. You look Irish. You look actually more Irish than the Irish themselves.
Yeah, I do have Celtic bloodlines. I do. I also have Palladian bloodlines from the alien galaxy.
You're typical Paddy. That's a typical Paddy answer.
Yeah, they like to drink more than the Irish, so that works well for me. But I do have Celtic bloodlines. A lot of people, when they see my red hair and white skin, they think, "Oh, JP, are you like African American?" But you're really spot on. Yeah.
Next, anybody else? Show of hands. Sorry. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
JP, my name is John. I just want to ask you a very simple question. I find your answers are very, very emotional. Right? The second thing is, I follow spirituality 16 hours a day at least. But since I started following it, I became an alcoholic. So for another 8 hours, I also meditate when I'm asleep. Can you better that?
Well, I would say you don't need to do better than that. But let's reframe some of that. If you're an alcoholic and drinking for 16 hours a day, what I'd invite you to realize is you're actually using plant medicine. So if you're drinking beer, it's coming from hops. And that's just really important to distinguish so you have a good rationalization for your alcoholism / plant medicine practice. And then you do an 8-hour sleeping meditation each day. And you said you're drinking for 16 hours each day. What I want to know is when you do the math, what do you do for the other 4 hours each day?
Another question here, JP. Here we go.
Hi JP, my name is Elena, and I tried plant medicine as well, and I think maybe I have too many blockages because I didn't have these amazing revelations. But some of my friends became so enlightened that they told me that the earth is actually flat, and I had a strong emotional reaction to it because now I'm starting to wondering, I have a huge fear of falling off the edges. I was just wondering, how can I just keep myself safe?
Well, when you're on the right kind of plant medicine, the flat earth will appear to be a round earth and you'll feel much safer. But let's get to the root cause of the issue. When you were using plant medicine and you didn't feel anything, it means you were using the wrong medicine. Like I would imagine you were probably like eating broccoli and expecting to have like hardcore hallucinations from it. But you have to understand plants like broccoli, they aren't medicinal because they don't get you high. They might be nutritional, but not medicinal, and they're sure as hell not sacred if they don't get you high. So whoever sold you your stuff isn't a very good source.
We have one more question. This is the last question.
So like I'm starting like a new like spiritual way of culting, like I'm wondering if my spokesperson, like it's called veganism, you know? So it's like being vegan but very vague about it. You know, like you're not really sure, like, you know. I think you could be the man.
Based on how you present that idea, I would dare say it would be beneficial for me to be your spokesperson.
I think he's an excellent protege.
I think so. Veganism, that's good. We maybe up the ante to raw veganism.
JP, we're coming close to finishing, so I was just going to ask you briefly to stop channeling and show us the real JP Sears.
Well, let me put those pants on. Luckily, I think the video feed is just here on up, so the real JP Sears wears pants. Now I've got those on.
Okay, so people, this is the real man behind the character. Just to tell us a bit about how you got into doing what you do. This amazing character that you've created.
Yeah. Well, I love the question, Paul, and also, first off, thank you, beautiful people in the audience, for putting up with and playing with the childlike, maybe childish banter that comes from some part of me. So, yeah, how I got into my character doing the videos that I do, for me, it is basically by accident. I had been at a point in my life where I've been doing emotional healing work with clients and teaching retreats for about 13 years. And up until that point, I had been telling myself it would be really, really terrible for business for me to let my natural sense of humor come out in a professional setting. And at the same time, being humorous, that's a very authentic part of me. It's not all of me, but it's a part of me. And I was having interesting experiences at the same time because I've been very much immersed in the spiritual world for quite a while. I lived in Southern California for 10 years. So I was really needing to reconcile a lot of my shadow side that came up with spirituality, essentially the hidden egotistical agendas that I was bringing into my spiritual practice, my spiritual talk, and basically hiding my own crap behind very noble-looking spiritual hiding spots so that I didn't see it. So I convinced myself, well, I don't have these narcissistic ego agendas because it's a spiritual practice I'm doing. So I needed to, I had lost myself a lot, to be honest with you, so I needed to really find myself. So I was finding that becoming playful with what I do, not to shame myself, but playful for the sake of having self-awareness that I otherwise couldn't have with just a serious frame of mind, was becoming very therapeutic for me. So I decided, well, even though this feels like it'll be bad for business, let me make one video. I'll make one video where I'm essentially teaching people how to be spiritual by modeling how not to be spiritual under the guise of it is how to be spiritual. And so I made the first ultra spiritual video, and a couple weeks later I just woke up one morning and I said, wow, maybe I should make more videos like that. Because that felt like really good, like it was having a nice reception around the world. I felt very honored and surprised. But more importantly, it was very creatively fulfilling to me. And also, like, I just felt like, well, there's a lot more material, if you will, a lot more of the unseen that could become seen by presenting things in a satirical, humorous way, sharing my perspective through the language of humor. So I decided, well, let me just make some more videos because they feel really good for me. And once I started making the follow-up videos, actually the second video, it dawned on me like, okay, I sort of created a character in that first video. And it wasn't planned to be a character. I just had put on a headband at the last minute and had a purple shirt on because that's what I always wear. My wardrobe is very simple. But I looked at that first video and I'm like, okay, this is how I came across in a very deadpan, satirical way, and that felt good to use that momentum. So my character was a process in discovery, honestly, for about the first probably 20 videos. It didn't really feel like I was creating the character. It felt more like I was just discovering the character, which is very much a real part of me that I just sort of have to temporarily brush away all the other parts of me in order to isolate this weirdo, satirical, playful person who always looks serious.
Well, JP, we just want to say thanks so much because you really need to laugh at yourself when you're, having a spiritual practice. So thanks for allowing yourself to have a really good laugh here tonight. Can we give him a big round of applause?
grateful that you guys are weird enough to invite me to be part of your wonderful event that's happening. And I hope you guys have a wonderful time. I absolutely do. And as you mentioned, Paul, something that I need to hear more and more, so that so I might as well project it onto everybody else. Please rock your playfulness. I think playfulness is the fountain of youth. I think life is too important to take seriously.
Thank you so much.